Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Gwadash, and double honors to the apostles of the great millstone that taught us what we know, Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Brakatham, to all of those of the household of this faith. And it's your brother Laban coming at you with another video. And in this video, I want to be going over something I found out on the day before camp. I was studying the scriptures, and I came across this precept, which is in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2 and verse 23, in regards to what is said here of the wicked, as Solomon puts it, right? So this reads, "For the Most High created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity." So then I was led to reading Genesis, I think it's chapter 2, where it mentions that the Elohim said, "Let's make man in our image," meaning that to implant knowledge in man. Now, these men were the sons of God. They had the knowledge, and as well as they had the ability to not die until like way later. An example, when you read Genesis 5, it shows you those examples of the men that almost lived 1,000 years, some 500 years, some 700 years, etc. And I'm just speculating and saying that probably back then, time was probably moving really slow, extremely slow. Because, I remember when I was a kid, and as well as other brothers too that's older than me, they could say the same thing. When they were children, they don't remember time as it is right now, where it's so quick. Time was moving slow, so that's why I'm speculating on that. So it must have seemed like, a guy or one of those men that have lived that long, it must have seemed like they were immortal, man. Like they were never gonna die. So, we know that according to the book of Genesis, chapter 2, and also in verse 3, it mentions that the serpent beguiled Eve, and as well as Adam, he fell for it as well, because he was following Eve, that they took to the knowledge of good and evil. So now let's read Genesis 2 and verse 17 first. "But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat it, or eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die." And we know that that wasn't the case when they did this. They were living. So what did it actually mean? Let's go and look up the word die, which the word is mawaf, which means to what? Be put to death, to die, to kill, have one executed, to die, as a penalty to be put to death, to die, perish of a nation, to die prematurely by neglect of wise moral and conduct, to die prematurely. And I looked at that word right there, to die prematurely, which occurred, 1,500 years during the time of Genesis, the 6th chapter, when the sons of God laid into the daughters of the sons of men, which were fair, as it mentions. And this is when the Lord deducted the lifespan of man. And this is why now, which is contrary to the norm of nature, we are prematurely dying. Okay, which I'll elaborate more on that. Let me just read this. And it reads, "And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So the lifespan that we had was greatly deducted, man. Because what we did was we entered into the daughters of the sons of men, which was the sin. So what led into this situation anyway? Well, it goes back to what Adam did, which is being deceived, which really it was really Eve, which was in the transgression, as it is written, through her we all died, right? So when we go and read the story in Genesis 3, what happened, as I was bringing about, let's read some more in this though. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord power had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, have the Most High said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And we know that the serpent was a man that was very skilled in being deceptive. Verse 2, and the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. And the garden just represents the planet. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat of it, and neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for God doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So they took hold to the knowledge of knowing good and evil, which is not something that the Lord wanted them to do. And they went ahead and did it anyway, because, Eve was curious, and being that the woman is the weaker vessel, she's going to pursue that. So when doing that, Adam followed thereby as well. And that's what led up to this point in Genesis 6. So as the time progressed, men started becoming more evil, especially the sons of God. They became more in tune with their and I'm not going to say more in tune as in like they purposely wanted to be in tune with sin, but it was just a natural thing that they was undergoing. All right, because like I said, it all goes back to those two, which allowed this seed, according to the book of 2nd Ezra, 9 and verse 17, right? And this is Ezra's receiving an answer from the Heavenly Father. And he answered me, saying, like as the field is, so is also the seed. As the flowers be, such are the colors also, such as the workman is, such also is the work. And as the husbandman is himself, and so is the husbandry also, for it was the time of the world. And now when I prepare the world, which was not yet made, even for them to dwell in that now live, no man spake against me. This is the point. For then everyone obeyed, but now the manner of them which are created in this world that is made are corrupted by a perpetual seed. And that perpetual seed goes all the way back to the wrong which was done in the Garden of Eden, which is the planet, which is called Eden in this case, eastward in Eden. They took hold of that knowledge that the Lord didn't want them to take hold of, which was the tree of knowledge and good and evil. So that was the transgression. So when they transgressed, that was in the biological makeup of their descendants, which is what we are. And this is why we're now prone to sin, which is to commemorate what Eve and Adam did. Or let me say it correctly, Adam and Eve did. So as time progressed, when you go into the history, the sons of God, well, let's just say the Israelites in this case. The Israelites were going off, and then, they were in good terms with the Most High, and they were going off again. So as time went on, as we continued to sin, this is really what I wanted to say. We declined. And now we're at our worst estate. We're smaller in stature. We're less wiser than we are. We're less stronger than we are. So if all of those things are gone, then we can easily say that we're a lot more weaker, in which actually the word weak means to be sick. So we're actually sick because of the multitude of our sins, during our past lifetimes. Okay? So now, what I want to do is I want to read this over here because this was the norm. This is the generation of the book of Adam and the day that God created man in the likeness of God made he him. Right? So now I'm going to jump all the way down and reading verse, 27. We're going to begin by Enoch because this is a whole lot to read all the way down to anyway. So yeah, let's begin by reading this. So it reads, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. And Methuselah lived 187 years old and begat Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he begat Lamech 708 and 2 years, 80 and 2 years, 782 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all of the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 180 and 2 years and begat a son. So that's no longer the case anymore, because the Lord said, look, man will now live approximately 120 years. But as we fast forward to now, the average age of man is like what? Between 75 to 85. So we've declined greatly. And it's all to do with sin. It all started from one place. And then the next thing you know, men were in like manner of those that have sinned before them, carrying on that perpetual seed, which is sin. Back to Genesis 6 and verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came and unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, and the same became mighty men, which were of old and men of renown. So these men had special capabilities, as well as we're going to get when the kingdom is set up, or prior before the kingdom when we're changed. We're going to be likened unto those sons of God. So if you look up this word giant, once again, getting back into the point of the topic, the word is what? Nepal, which means fallen. The root word here, which means fallen ones. And that's exactly what happened. So when we started making that move, which like I said, that move that we made, or the sons of God made, it all went back to what those two that were at Eastwood and Eden did, which led to that point. All right, so this is 2 Peter 2 in verse 4. For if the Most High spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness to be reserved unto the judgment. And that's where we stand right now. We're in these chains of darkness, which are these bodies. And in these bodies, we have very low or limited capabilities. We're no longer multi-dimensional beings. We're only one-dimensional beings. All right? And everything has to be done manually in these bodies. Every single thing. But that's all going to change in due time. Because the kingdom of heaven, in order for us to get into the kingdom, we have to be changed first. You know? So, this is why the Lord, this is another reason why Yahweh Shah is coming back. Yeah, he's coming back to bring destruction and to make all things new, but as well as to make us into what we used to be. And when it says that the Lord is going to make all things new, meaning that the Lord is going to restore everything. And I can also include us in that too. But what I'm saying in this case is that the Lord is going to bring us back to being immortals again. As it is written in the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 2, in verse 23, for the Most High created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity, as well as the Father in heaven is eternal. So we're going to be eternal in the heavens. Here on this earth, especially. So now, let's also read the book of Isaiah 65 and verse 20. And there shall be no more thence an infant of days, nor an old man that hath not filled his days. That's us. We're living an infant of days. And I want to bring up this word again. This is why we're dying prematurely, going back to the sin, the transgression that Adam and Eve did. And just like it mentions in Genesis 2 and 17, that if you eat of the tree, or of this tree, which is the knowledge of good and evil, then thou shalt surely die. I looked up that word die, and the word die means, in this case, or in that case, like not in this case, but in that case, it means to die prematurely. And this is where we stand. Because if you mean to tell me, as Isaiah put it, for the child shall die 100 years old, that means you ain't gonna get old until like way later. Just like it mentions in verse, 5? Oh man. Not verse 5, but verse 22. And they shall not build and another inhabit, and they shall not plant and another eat. For as the days of a tree are the days of my people, and mine elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. See? For as the days of a tree are the days of my people. And the tree that Isaiah was talking about, because according to the historical account, Isaiah was a prophet in Jerusalem. And most likely the trees that he's probably referring to is the olive tree that they're now calling the al-Badawi, which is known as the big one. It's estimated to be between now 4,000 to 5,000 years old, and it is a centerpiece of the yearly olive harvest, with hundreds coming from miles around to visit during the season. So there you go. There you go. So that's how long we're going to be living. We're going to be capable of living that long, because we're going to be what? Immortals. That's why the Apostle Paul spoke about the changing of the bodies to being immortal in the book of, 1 Corinthians 15. And Yahushua speaks on the same thing too. The idea of having everlasting life. So we're going to experience life that we've never seen before. Is it going to be similar to how it used to be in the beginning? Yes, but it's going to be better. It's going to be way better. Okay? So because of sin, now we're dying prematurely. Because normally, we should be living as well as our fathers lived in the beginning of time, our forefathers. But that's no longer the case anymore, which is very problematic. It's not normal. I mean, we've been taught to believe it is normal to die at the age of 75 or 85, which is the average lifespan of man today. But according to the grand scheme of things of nature, that's not normal. That's terrible. That means we're in a bad estate. So much so that something is going to have to give. We've came down so low. And it was all to do with this simple thing, which is sin, which led to this degradation of mankind, but more importantly, the sons of God in this case. It's really, we should be living above everybody and having godlike capabilities as our fathers did. But we're going to get back to that in due time. This is why Yahushua is coming back, or one of the reasons why he's coming back, to make all things new, to restore everything as it should be, as it was once in the beginning of time, and probably even better. Not probably, but is going to be better. So yeah, that's all I have to say for this video here, giving all of the praise and the glory to the Most High and the Son, Yahweh Bashim Shai, Bashem Rakak Wadash, Yahweh Bashim Shai, Brakatham, Shalom.